We're going to talk about the 1993 elections.
How long back? Or how...
As far long as you want to.
All the results were known, and the winner has been known. MKO Abiola.
33 years after June 12, 1993, the story of Nigeria's most controversial election is taking center stage before an international audience. MKO, the new investigative documentary and political thriller from filmmaker and journalist Ose Oyamendan, made its world premiere in international competition at the Sheffield DocFest on June 12, 2026, Nigeria's Democracy Day. Widely regarded as the nation's freest and fairest elections, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola's historic victory was annulled by the military, setting off a political crisis that will ultimately lead to his imprisonment and death in custody 5 years later. Through rare access and interviews with key figures on every side of the story, MKO revisits a chapter of Nigerian history whose questions, controversies, and consequences still echo decades later.
We're making a documentary now because it's actually an indictment on our society that we don't have this documentary. And it's important because a lot of people don't know our history. And because we don't know our history, we always keep falling into the same pit. So this documentary is to remind people of the past so we don't fall into that pit. And also, the world is just at the same stage as it was in 1993. There's a global, there's an economic meltdown around the world. There's an election coming on in Nigeria. It's very tense. And then you have the whole thing about the superpowers caring just about oil and all. So it's just merging. It's important for people to know that their vote is their power. You have to vote. You don't have to go and talk about voting without voting. And also you have to protect your vote. Because people died so that Nigeria could be where it is today. And they shouldn't die in vain. I mean, Abiola was the man that made the supreme ultimate sacrifice. But there were hundreds of people that died, thousands of people that were displaced. So it's important.
There is always a yesterday, there's a today, but more importantly, there'll be a tomorrow. So we all just have to be careful. History, it's something that would outlive all of us. And how people live, they'll probably not be around when their history are being written or being told. You can choreograph something, but people will. That's how emotional this has been for me this evening. Of course, there are lots of things that I'm hearing for the first time. There are lots of scenes that have come back even as a young man. I mean, it's over 34 years ago now. So but the beauty of it is that there is no democratic story of Nigeria without an MKO story. And so that's why it's so important that at some point in time, we all pick it, use whatever parts will be useful to us as students, as leaders, as family, whatever, as businesses, and use it as a corrective measure. And I believe it also could be, and that had started. The fact that we could declare today as a public holiday, the fact that a couple of years ago, the former president could come up and accept and agree that he actually won the election. There's a lot of healing that has taken place, but there's still a lot more that people need to hear and see and know, so that in full circle, Nigeria can be a better place. We can be better human beings. I have learned, will continue to learn.
It's more about making sure the story is told. It took 27 years to get a GCFR. This is a man that had titles all over Nigeria and not one national title. And you would have thought after all that happened, it would have been an easy thing to do. But it took us 27 years to get it because they didn't want to accept that they made a mistake. Instead, they kept on, and they're still trying to rewrite history on it. So this, for me, in many ways, puts it into perspective. It tells generations to come, and even to the present ones and the future ones that are still alive today, everybody will see them for what they are. And like I said, this is just a small part of MKO. Everything about that election is still the best, the freest election we've ever had in Nigeria to date. Nothing has ever, instead of it getting better, it's going downhill. And that's what I meant, that this is the democracy day in Nigeria, only for the Democrats. Because you don't have Democrats in Nigeria.
Part political thriller, part historical investigation, MKO goes beyond the headlines to explore the human stories, political calculations, and democratic ideals at the heart of the June 12th struggle. From those who fought for democracy to those who held power during one of Nigeria's most turbulent political periods, the film assembles an extraordinary cast of voices to revisit a defining moment in the nation's journey.
MKO's history
cannot be rubbished, cannot be pushed aside or thrown away. 33 years ago, exactly today, he won the freest election, the most credible election in Nigerian history. But the military authorities did not allow him to assume his office, and they only honored him after his death with GCON. History is stubborn. And those who don't learn from history will either repeat the blunders of history till they become history themselves. But we want this story to be alive for children who were not born 33 years ago, so that there's something to remind them of a man who laid down his life for democracy in Nigeria.
It was important for me. I knew nothing about the story, and I couldn't believe that someone could be democratically elected and somehow not be able to rule, and then somehow pass in mysterious circumstances and there'd be no definitive answers. And this felt like an opportunity to give definitive answers. And when you're going to do a definitive story, you need to have all sides. And what Ose managed to do is he's managed to get all sides, people who have contradictory versions, and then the audience can decide what they believe the truth is. If there's one thing I would want like Africans, the Black diaspora, to take from watching a film like this, is that democracy is not something to be taken for granted, that you should cherish it, you should value it, and where appropriate, you should fight for it.
It's impossible to have democracy and fundamental rights without memory. And I truly believe that this is a story that Nigeria has needed on screen, not just as entertainment or news, but as inheritance. We need to know that on June 12th, all of Nigeria came together. On June 12th, we did it right. On June 12th, all of us were just Nigerians. There were no ethnic groups. On June 12th, we rewarded competence over culture. And for me, we need the memory of June 12th and this very important man at the center of June 12th. And I pray that our democracy, as we grow and as we mature, we carry the memory and we carry, both the things we've done right and our mistakes as well, to create a different kind of future where, once again in Nigeria, competence, capacity are really what matters.
June 12 means a lot to me. It's a reminder of how close Nigerians came to a different path and how far we've come since then. Abiola's win showed Nigerians, especially here in Lagos and in Nigeria, the power in their votes and a unified voice, right? The documentary premiering today here in Sheffield, we visit a historic moment that even as a child, at that time, he had such an impact on me. The election, the annulment, his death in custody will always be such a memorable part of Nigerian history that I will never forget. Something that is intriguing to watch is seeing our current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was an integral part of that pro-democracy struggle, now leading this same nation, and Nigeria built on institutions that movement around June 12 helped secure. Watching this film, for me, you're truly able to understand and appreciate just how far we've come as a nation and how the leaders, this journey has come, and how Lagos continues to be at the heart of pushing this narrative forward. And it's a great privilege to be here today.
For Ose Oyamendan, this is more than a documentary. As a young journalist working for MKO Abiola's media empire in 1993, he witnessed the story up close. And more than 3 decades later, he returns to it with fresh questions, unprecedented access, and a determination to preserve a pivotal chapter of Nigeria's democratic history. MKO is both a reflection on the past and a reminder that the legacy of June 12 remains unfinished. Seyitan Atigarin, Arise News, Sheffield.